It's a short day, so this is going to be a short video. We had an early release today on Thursday. We came back to this page where we stopped on Wednesday. That was the video before this one. And yesterday's focus was on these things that the president does not need permission. Things, and it says military powers, but it really, that's only one of the powers that they have. We talked some about like the pardons, their ability to do that. The next thing, this is what's new. There are some things the president does need permission to do. One of them is about making treaties. That's a kind of agreement, usually like a peace treaty, but there are other kinds of treaties as well. So that's a thing the president can do. The president can pick the judges who would be on the U.S. Supreme Court. Those department leaders that we were looking at before, right? Like these ones from before that can replace the president later on. Those department leaders are the people with jobs in the government. Yeah, so you can pick all those, but has to get permission, consent of the U.S. Senate. And if you forgot what the Senate is those 100 elected representatives. They're in Washington, D.C., in that building there, the Capitol building. There are 100 because there are 2 from each state. And over here, so it says consent to the Senate to make treaties provided 2/3 of those senators agree. So right now that would be 2/3 out of 100. Of course, earlier there were different numbers of senators, but now it's 2/3 of 100. So again, these are things the president needs permission, can't just do on their own. They can't just pick the judges or those department leaders. They need to pick the names, and then the Senate has to agree, or else they're not officially in that job. There's some other stuff down below that isn't really important. We just jumped through that. Don't worry about it. The next thing in the Constitution is things that the president has to do. And one of those is the president has to give information to Congress. And we talked about, well, why would they put that in there? It's a way to make sure the president is involved with Congress, is making sure that they're connected somehow. And we'll skip over some of those other ones because the really important one, I think, is this part, to take care that laws are faithfully executed. Faith is one of our civics words of the year. So remember, the laws get made in Congress, get passed, but then someone has to make sure they're actually getting followed. So that goes back to those departments, those department leaders. If it's something about schools, then the president will make sure the education department is doing things with it. If it's about roads, like highways, that would be the transportation department, and so on. So that's how the president is involved with making those laws that got passed actually make sure they're getting followed. And then the last thing we looked at today is about impeachment. This is the last thing in the original Constitution. Now, impeach does not mean what a lot of people think it means. Impeach only means to accuse somebody official of something. Donald Trump was impeached 2 times. He was not removed from office. So later in this unit, we're going to find out more details about how impeaching really works. But what this part of the Constitution says is, what are the kinds of mistakes, the kinds of crimes that you could be accused of? One of them is called treason. That would be betraying the enemies of the United States. Donald Trump was accused of that at the very end of being president because some people accused him of encouraging those riots on January 6th, 2021, when some of his supporters barged into the building. They accused him of telling them to do that. But there were not enough votes to make him be found guilty of it. Another crime that they list in the Constitution is bribing. So that's not just paying someone. I get paid for my job. That doesn't mean I'm getting bribed. But like I said in class, if you tried to pay me to give you a better grade, that would be bribery. Don't do it. That's the first thing Donald Trump was accused of doing when he was impeached. He was accused of trying to bribe somebody in the country to get information about Joe Biden's family. Now, they don't list all the crimes. Then it says other high crimes. And we didn't really talk about in class what specific ones would be a high crime. Speeding ticket would not, we could agree, would not be a high crime. But that's where we ended again on this short day. Hopefully that's enough to fill in your learning log. I'm collecting them on Friday.